Joining us now from San Diego, a great place, conservative columnist Gina Loudon.
Political sensation Gina Loudon.
Dr. Gina Loudon joins us live. Gina Loudon.
Dr. Gina Loudon.
This is not something that I think developed overnight. They're going to talk a lot about Stockholm Syndrome and some of those things, but I think we have a new DSM-5 that has given us all these new mental disorders. Well, it is fuzzy math. All of these estimates are based on pure speculation. I say that there are better answers that don't have anything to do with schools. I think America watched Duck Dynasty because there was something they related to there. Wonks like me spend a lot of time looking at the relationship between the politics and the psychology.
Freedom prospers when religion is vibrant and the rule of law under God is acknowledged.
An informed patriot is what we want.
Welcome to Focal Point, the home of muscular Christianity on Conservative Talk Radio. Muscular Christianity, where we relentlessly explore the intersection of truth and politics.
The trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so.
Now, here's your host, Brian Fisher.
Welcome back to the second hour of Focal Point on AFR Talk. I am Dr. Gina, filling in today for the one and only irreplaceable Brian Fisher. I have to tell you, my little monkeys are gathered all around. That would be my children. And I don't know why I call them monkeys. My grandma called me a monkey, and I call my children monkeys. And it's just an affectionate term. So nobody write me any mean letters about that. I'm not demeaning their intelligence. They know I think they're all very bright. But we do every single day. We homeschool, and I have 5 little monkeys. And every day, their assignment is to read The American Minute by Bill Federer. And my next guest that they get to listen to live today is Bill Federer. He is an author, a speaker, a historian, a genius, truly, and an all-around good guy. His daily American Minute at AmericanMinute.com you can find, and you can also get his many books, including the book There Really Is a Santa Claus, The History of St. Nicholas and Christ. Welcome back to Focal Point, one of my dear friends, my mentor, a true American hero, Bill Federer. Good to have you with us.
Well, Gina, great to be with you. I can't live up to all that, but it's always an honor to be on your program.
Oh, you already have lived up to it, and I want to jump right in because our segment isn't long here, but we've been debating the entire show, Bill. Is there a Santa Claus?
Well, St. Nicholas was the most popular Greek Orthodox saint. He was to the Greeks what St. Peter is to the Catholics. And so they have lots of stories. And starts off around 280 A.D., and this is when there is a Roman emperor named Diocletian. The first 3 centuries of Christianity, there were 10 major persecutions of Christians. They were thrown to the lions. They were boiled alive. Tongues were cut out. And so Nicholas was born in Asia Minor. Today that's Turkey. And his parents died, left him a lot of money, and he would go into town and help the poor anonymously because he wanted the glory to go to God. And one of the stories that became well known is a merchant in the town had gone bankrupt. And back then, when you went bankrupt, the creditors would come and not only take your house and lands, they would take your children. This merchant had 3 beautiful daughters. He knew if they were taken, they'd probably end up in sex trafficking, forced marriages, prostitution. Unfortunately, what goes on today in a lot of those countries, especially in the Middle East, and like those girls in Boko Haram took in Nigeria. Anyway, this merchant father was bankrupt, and he had an idea. He thought if he could hurry up and marry his daughters off, the creditors couldn't take them. Unfortunately, he did not have money for a dowry, which was needed in that area of the world for a legally recognized wedding. Well, Nicholas heard the problem. Late one night, he threw a bag of money in the window. Supposedly, it landed in a shoe or a stocking that was drying by the fireplace. Provided the dower, the oldest daughter got married. It was a big buzz talk in the town. Throws a bag in for the second daughter. And then when he throws the bag of money in the window for the third daughter, again, supposedly landing in a shoe or a stocking, the dad was expecting it, ran outside and caught him. And Nicholas made him promise not to tell where the money came from because he wanted the glory to go to God. And so this was the origin of the tradition of secret gift-giving on the anniversary of Nicholas's death, which was December 6, 343 A.D. And ironically, the pawnbrokers claim that St. Nicholas is the patron saint of pawnbrokers because he helped out a family in their time of financial need. So pawnbrokers have 3 gold balls outside of their shop or on their sign, symbolic of the 3 bags of gold that Nicholas threw in the window. A little bit of a stretch, but nevertheless. And now the church at this time was moving in this direction, where if you really became a Christian, you were expected to give away all your money and live in a cave or join a monastery. Sort of their version of separation of church and state. Do it within your 4 walls, don't affect society. And so he was going to go to the Holy Land on a pilgrimage and join a monastery. Somehow the Lord told him, though, not to hide his light under a bushel. So he takes a boat back from the Holy Land, gets off at Asia Minor, again, that's today Turkey, a town called Myra, today that's Demre. And unbeknownst to him, the bishop had died, and they couldn't decide on who the next bishop was going to be. And one guy has a dream that the first person to church the next morning would be named Nicholas, and he was to be their next bishop. Well, Nicholas walks in, they ask his name, they tell him he's supposed to be the bishop. He was not too thrilled because the Roman Emperor Diocletian was arresting the bishops and killing them. Sort of like, you put the target on your back. You speak out against the president, And so nevertheless, he became a bishop, and he was arrested, put in prison, awaiting death. And then the Emperor Diocletian is struck with an intestinal disease, and he has to resign, which is sort of humorous because by this time the emperors had been declaring themselves a god, so it's like a god resigning. The next emperor carries on the persecution, but he dies, and then it's a toss-up, and it gets to a fight where Constantine finally wins, and he legalizes Christianity. So at this time, Nicholas is let out of jail. He goes back and he preaches against paganism. Nearby was the temple to Diana, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, and 127 huge pillars and temple prostitutes. It was the Las Vegas of the Mediterranean. Nicholas preaches against it, and the people tear it down. So he was a fire and brimstone preacher. And then the Arian heresy began to split the church, and they all go to Nicaea to settle the heresy. And tradition has it that Nicholas was so upset at Arius for starting this first of all heresies that he slapped him across the face. So jolly old St. Nick had a little temper there. And then there was a corrupt governor who was going to execute some soldiers to cover his corruption. They run and tell Nicholas. He busts through the crowd, grabs the sword out of the executioner's hand, throws it down, and then he turns to the corrupt governor and reads his mail in front of everybody. The governor knows that no one could know the details other than God, and so he begs Nicholas to pray for him. And lots of other stories the Greeks had, but he dies on December 6, 343 A.D. They give presents on the anniversary of his death, and then the Muslims invade in the year 1087, and they would trash the churches and dig up the bones of the Christian saints and give them to the dogs. Sort of like just 3 or 4 months ago, the Muslims destroyed the bones of Jonah that existed in Nineveh, Mosul, Iraq, since 700 B.C., and anyway, so the Christians moved the bones of their famous Greek St. Nicholas to Italy in the year 1087 into a town called Bari, B-A-R-I, and this introduces him to Western Europe. Now, the Pope that dedicated the church is Pope Urban II. And you think, well, I don't familiar with Pope names. Well, he might be familiar because he's the one who called for the first crusade against the Muslims because so many Greeks were fleeing this Muslim invasion. He goes to the Council of Clermont in Europe and tells these kings Jesus said, leave the 99 and go after the one, so go help these Greek Christians. Anyway, so 1087, Nicholas's remains are in Bari, Italy, and the Italians like the gift-giving. And so in the 1200s, St. Francis of Assisi, sort of in protest, he comes up with the nativity scene, the creche scene, saying all this gift-giving's fine, but it's a distraction from the reason for the season. Jesus, the Son of God, was born in a manger.
Yeah.
And then you have the Reformation. By Martin Luther's day, there was a saint's day for every single day of the year. And Martin Luther thought this was a distraction from Christ. So he ends the saints' days, including the popular St. Nicholas Day, December 6th. But the Germans like the gift-giving, so Martin Luther moves all the gift-giving to December 25th and says all gifts come from the Christ child. And the German pronunciation of Christ child is Christkindl. And over the centuries, we morphed the pronunciation to Christkringle. So Christkringle is actually Christkindl, which means Christ child in German. Anyway,
hang on just one moment because we're going to come back with more Bill Federer. We're going to learn about stockings and tree lights and the night before Christmas and some other things. So hang on a moment. We'll be right back with more Focal Point. I'm your host filling in today for Brian Fisher. I'm Dr. Gina Loudon. And we're going to have more with historian and just all around wise man, Bill Federer. And of course, with you, we're going to get back to your phone calls as well. Coming up in this next segment, stay with us.